In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to steal $100,000 from the bank. Well, not actually. I'm actually going to show you instead how to get $100,000 in 0% APR funding for your business in order to grow and expand it without giving up any equity, ruining your personal credit score, or paying a single dime in interest. So if that sounds of any interest to you, be sure to watch further, and I'm going to take you through the exact step-by-step process on how I was able to do this for myself and how we're able to do this for our clients as well. So be sure to pay attention, get out your notepad and take some notes as well. This is going to be super informative because, as I know, most business owners are not super well versed or educated in this business funding topic. So let's get right into it. I'm going to show you exactly how we were able to do this for my client, Sebastian. So taking a look at these three images below, we're going to zoom in. So Sebastian, we actually got the Chase Inc. Unlimited card. Is just a 0% APR card for the first 12 months from Chase directly, and he has a 23K limit on this credit card. Scrolling over to the right, he also has the Chase Inc. Business Cash, which is another 0% APR credit card from Chase for the first 12 months as well. He has a $34,500 balance on this currently and a $1,500 available credit, meaning he has a 36K total limit on this card. Swiping over a little bit more, we have the Amex Blue Business Plus card, and if we zoom in, he has a $35,000 limit here. So I just wanted to show you guys some proof that I know what I'm talking about, and we were able to get Sebastian around just shy of $100,000 in 0% APR funding to grow and scale his company. And this is just a little bit under 100,000. I believe it's 94,000 in total limit. But now I'm going to show you exactly what goes into this and how to optimize and how to set this up for yourself, so you're able to get up to $100,000 in business funding for your own business to grow and scale it as well. So let's scroll down a little bit. So first and foremost, this is going to be the 100% most important part. You're going to want to put heavy emphasis on this, take some notes, or do whatever you got to do to drill this home, that this is the most important part of this entire business funding process. And it's going to be your personal credit score. That's going to be your biggest lever when you are going to get business funding, because the banks need a way to determine if you're trustworthy or not to lend money to. So if you don't know already, a credit score is just a score. It's a 3-digit number, anywhere from 300. If we zoom into this graphic a little bit, it's anywhere from 300 all the way up to 850. And the lower it is, the less trustworthy you are to the bank and the less likely they are going to be to give you money. And the higher it is, the more trustworthy you are in their eyes and the more likely they are going to be to give you money. So a good credit score is anything, I would say, over 700. An average credit score would be like anywhere from like 650 to 700. Ideally, if you're going to go through this process, you want a 700 minimum, but the higher the better, right? So zooming out a little bit here. So personal credit, like I mentioned, is your biggest lever, and it's 100% non-negotiable. This needs to be taken care of to give yourself the best chances or the best odds at approvals. And not only approvals, but approvals for the highest limit possible, because a 680 credit score versus a 750 credit score could be the difference of a $2,000 approval or a $25,000 approval on a single card. And if we're doing the credit stacking, or we're getting you multiple credit cards at 0% APR, if we have 3 cards at a 2K limit, we're only looking at 6,000 total. But if we get 3 cards at a roughly 25K limit, you're looking at a 75K in total 0% APR funding for that next 12 months, like we were able to do for Sebastian. If we scroll up a little bit further, he has a 23K limit, 36K limit, and a 35K limit roughly. So his profile is basically perfect. Like, he has a 750 plus, no late payments or anything like that. That's why he was able to get the limits he ended up getting. And if you don't have a long enough credit history, maybe you're like, I don't know, when I first got my first couple of business cards, I was only 19. But if you want to speed up the process, or if you have any family members or a parent or a spouse or whatever with a great credit score, you can get added as an authorized user to a family member, like I mentioned, or a parent or whatever, as long as they're totally okay with it, in order to boost your credit score. In addition to that, of having a great credit score, you also want to have a long credit age, ideally 5 years plus. If it's lower, that's okay. You just want to be able to make up for it in other areas, like I'll mention a little bit later in this video. And then additionally, when you are going to apply, you also want a low credit usage, and ideally under 10%. So what that means is, for your personal credit cards, let's say you have a $10,000 total limit across 2 personal credit cards. You have 2 personal credit cards. Let's say it's $5,000 and $5,000 each, for a total of $10,000 in personal credit limits. You want to make sure when that statement closes and it reports to the credit bureaus that you're under 10%. So only $1,000 owed when the credit report closes, and then you want to be paying off your cards completely in full at the end of each month. Ideally, it's under 10%, but if you're under 30% as well, that'll be okay. It's just the ideal situation, and what you want to strive for is under 10% utilization when that statement closes and they tell you how much you owe on that the payment due email or statement that they give you. So that's that. Like I mentioned, and I'll mention it again and again and again and again, your personal credit score will be the biggest lever point for you. And then everything I mentioned here is very important, but you also want to make sure your cards are paid off in full at the end of each month and you have no negatives or no late payments as well. That's going to be extremely, extremely, extremely important when you are going to apply with the bank. So you look attractive and you look, very trustworthy to lend money to. So that's that. Personal credit is your biggest leverage point. Moving on, we're going to break down what actually makes up your personal credit report. So 35%, and this is the biggest chunk, is going to be your payment history. So are you paying off your cards on time? Do you have any late payments? Is there any negatives on your credit report? That's going to be the biggest part. That's why I'm stressing so much that you paying off your cards in full at the end of each month and having no late payments is going to be the biggest factor because it does make up the biggest percent of your total credit score. Next is going to be the next largest chunk is going to be the total amount owed. And that's what I just broke down to you of the utilization. So your utilization and how much is owed when that statement closes at the end of each month for your credit cards is going to be the next most important thing, as you can see. So this is going to be 30% of your total credit score. And again, that's going to be based on your utilization. So ideally, you want to keep your utilization under 30%. If you can get it under 10%, that's even better. That'll be the best case scenario to show yourself trustworthy to the bank when you're applying, and it's going to give you a higher likelihood of not only approvals, but approvals at a high limit. So that's that. Next, the next biggest chunk will be your length of credit history, and that's what we mentioned as well, that you would like your credit report to show at least 5 years of having personal credit history, meaning like you've had a credit card for at least 5 years or longer, like your average credit age. If you don't, like that's why I mentioned you can get an authorized user, maybe a parent or anybody that's okay with adding you as an authorized user under their account, so you can extend that length of credit history as well. But if you can't get that done, it's totally okay. I wasn't able to get that done myself, but as long as you're taking care of these other chunks and these other sections, you're going to be totally fine to get approved and for a good enough limit. Okay, next we have 10%, which is just new credit added to your credit report. And then the other 10% will be credit mix. So that's going to be like the difference of like credit cards you have on different accounts, car loans, student loans, or whatever. And that'll be 10%. And those aren't like these aren't extremely important. Well, they are because they're, to your credit report, but they're just not nearly as important as your payment history or your amount owed because they're just such a large chunk and they make up, 2/3 of your total credit report. So that's me breaking down the credit report. Next, we're going to get into the actual funding process and what I would do if I were you guys and what we do for our clients when we do go get them funding. So step one, like I mentioned, make sure your personal credit is in line. And then I broke down to you everything that makes up your personal credit. And then next would be step two, which is just warming up to tier one banks. So what is a tier one bank, you might ask? It's just like some of the largest banks in America that have a ton of customers and a ton of clients and a ton of business credit cards you guys can go get. So examples would be like Chase, Amex, US Bank, Bank of America, etc. Like there's those are some of the biggest major banks, and warming up to them. What I mean by that is just having some type of relationship with that bank. So like we mentioned with Sebastian, he has like 23K limit and a 36K limit on those 0% APR credit cards. But before we even applied for those cards, you want to have some type of relationship with that bank. So he actually opened up a business checkings account for his business with Chase, deposited some money, and he uses that paying for inventory and receiving payments from Amazon to establish some type of relationship with them. These banks are not going to want to give you a massive 0% APR credit limit if you don't even bank with them or you don't have any type of prior relationship with them. It just makes a lot of sense if they're going to trust you a lot more. If you have some type of relationship with them, maybe you bank with them, maybe, anything, or maybe you have a previous credit card or anything like that. So in order to do that, you could open up a Bank of America, a Chase business checking account, US Bank checkings account, or just do anything you can just to get your foot in the door. And then before applying, like I mentioned below, you want to season those accounts for at least 30 days. So for Sebastian, we open up that Chase bank account. We put his payment methods and everything in there for Amazon as a business he's in. We had them deposit some money in there as well, and then we let it sit for 30 days. You don't want to apply. You don't want to do that and then apply like one day after. It's not really building a relationship with them. And then the other thing you could do before applying is getting a direct relationship or RM in a relationship manager or an RM in your corner. So what that means is just like there's people at the bank who help and walk you through your application process. And with them, with you getting an intro to them and they understand your business and things of that nature, they get to work directly with underwriting to approve you for a higher limit or to approve you for the card at all. And that's just going to be super, 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 super helpful. And that's what we offer in my credit funding company as well for all of our clients. For specific banks, depending on what state you're in, we have direct relationship managers, again, that are going to be in your corner to help you with the application process and help you, work with underwriting to understand your business better in order to get better and higher credit limits and a higher chance of approval as well. So is that 100% necessary? Can you apply with the do the online application 100% on your own? Absolutely, but you have a higher likelihood if you take care of all of these, like I mentioned, and we do this for our clients as well. Prior to you applying, like I mentioned, you want to have some type of relationship with a bank. You want to season those accounts for a little while, and then if you have a direct RM, that's just going to be more fuel to the fire and just going to be way more helpful when you are going to apply. Next step, this is going to be the pre-application checklist. So once you do that, make sure your personal credit score is in line and everything's taken care of, and then you're started the warming up process to these tier one banks. You want to go through this checklist prior before you end up applying. So the minimums you want before applying is a 680 credit score. You can have a new LLC, that's okay. Your utilization, again, like I mentioned earlier, ideally under 10%, but the most we'll allow before applying for clients is up to 30%. And then you want 3 personal accounts open and then 1 personal card with at least a 5K limit, and then your credit age for at least over 1 year. And then absolutely, like I mentioned earlier, no late payments, no negatives. If you do have those, you would want to get those wiped with like a credit repair company or on your own or however you can before applying. Because if you have late payments or negatives, you don't have as high of a likelihood to get approved. One, and then two, if you do end up getting approved, it might be that 2K limit instead of a 25K limit. Like I mentioned earlier, had you just spend the time, polishing your credit report a little bit better. And then for best results and what we recommend for all of our clients and all of the people that reach out to me on Instagram or YouTube or whatever, best results, you want to have a relationship with the bank. Like I mentioned, you want to, warm up to those tier one banks just a little bit prior to applying. Ideally, a 700 plus credit score. The higher, the better. The higher it won't hurt you at all. If you have a 750 plus, that's completely, the most ideal. At least a 2-year LLC. If you guys looked at any, business loans or any other business funding options, most of them want to see 2 years of LLC age in order to trust you that, you're in business, you know what you're doing, you're making money, and you're still running the company, which is totally fair. Utilization under 10%, like I mentioned. 5 personal accounts open. That's just going to be like credit cards. And then 1 personal card with at least a 10K limit, and then an average credit age over 5 years, no late payments again, and no negatives. And then again, this is for best results. So if you're missing one of these, maybe you only have 4 personal account like credit cards open, or maybe you have a credit card with an 8K limit or 9K limit. It's okay. Like it's going to be tough to get all of these, but if you do get all of these, that's why I mentioned like we help people get between 50 to 250K in business funding. If you're on the minimum side, you might be only likely to get 50 to 75K limits and 0% APR funding for your company. But if you have the best results, and let's say you check all these boxes, you could be eligible for like 200 to 250K in funding because you check all the boxes and you look super, super, super trustworthy to the bank. So hopefully that all makes sense. Okay, so this next section is actually the fun part, and this is going to be the credit application process. So what I have here is the ultimate credit stack. And depending if you have an Amex card already, whether it's like the Amex Platinum, the Amex Gold, Plum, whatever, this process for these 4 credit cards is going to cost you between 2 to 3 inquiries. And what an inquiry is just letting the credit bureaus know that you just got another credit card. It's totally fine because this is going to be business related, and we're going to be able to wipe these after you do get these credit cards. And a lot of people don't know that, but because they're business related and not personal related, we're actually able to wipe these inquiries off your report after you do get them. So as long as you follow the directions, you have a great personal credit score. You understand your personal credit score. You warmed up to the banks, and then you do everything in your power to get the best chances of approval, like I mentioned here, for best results, right? you should be able to, put yourself in a great position to get around $100,000 in business credit. For Sebastian, one of our clients I was talking about earlier in this video, he actually only needed 3 out of 4 of these credit cards total to get his 93K limit. So we just stopped after that because we got him close enough to the 100K limit of what he wanted, right? So if you do take care of all of these total, you should be, like I mentioned, in a great position to get up to $100,000 in limits if you follow all the directions correctly. And then, like I mentioned, you're going to apply for all of these with an optimized profile and a great strategy for sequencing. And then that's going to cost you between 2 to 3 inquiries. If you have an Amex card prior, it's Amex actually, once you have a foot in the door, they don't do any hard inquiries. They just do a soft pull in your credit report, meaning it's not going to show when you get these cards. So if you have a relationship with Amex already, these 2 credit cards are not going to show up on your new inquiries. It's just going to be the Chase cards. The Chase cards always report. So this process is going to be 2 inquiries. But like I mentioned, after you get all these credit cards and you do everything I mentioned, you should be in a great position to get $100,000 in business funding. But for whatever reason, if you need more limits or you don't get the limits you want, this will be round 1. You could, like I mentioned, get these credit cards, wipe the inquiries because they're not business related, and then go for a second round. So Chase and Amex are 2 of the best, banks in the world for credit cards. But if you don't get the limits you want, or maybe you need more than $100,000 in limits, you could wipe the inquiries and then you can move on to Truist, Bank of America. Bank of America has multiple cards for 0% APR limits, and then Truist as well. And then there's US Bank. And depending on what state you live in as well, you could actually do a third round and you could try to get 0% APR limits from more regional banks in your state. So that's the complete process. Those are what you need to follow. And make sure you have a great personal credit score. Make sure you take care of everything on that end, and then start warming up to those tier 1 banks, and then do everything I mentioned in order for best results. And then once you are fully ready to go get funded, you can go get these cards. These are the 4 I recommend the most. And like I mentioned, for our client Sebastian, he only needed 3 out of 4 of these in order to get a little shy of $100,000 in total limits. If you don't get the limits you want, or if you want even more than 100K, you can also do a second round for yourself, and then even a third round if you want to get into the regional banks and things of that nature. If you liked what you saw in this video, but you want this handled for you, and you want to get approved for between $50,000 to $250,000 in 0% business funding, you want us to optimize your personal and business credit profile before applying, pick the right cards in the right order to maximize approval, odds and limits, and effectively stack across multiple lenders, Chase, Amex, Capital One, etc., and avoid mistakes that tank approvals, right? And then you want, these are my results for myself and my clients. So like I went from $8,000 a week in revenue all the way up to $160,000 after I got business funding just a few short years later. We have Sebastian's credit limits here. We have my credit limits here as well. So if you want any of this stuff, again, there's no guarantees here of like this is your results, but this is, again, the thing that helped us scale our business the most. So if you do want everything mentioned above and you have a 700 plus credit score, then book a call with me with the link in the description. I'm going to personally hop on a call with you. We'll run through your credit report and your options to see how much you would be eligible to get funded. And then from there, you'll have, great information if you want to move forward and, be able to get that 100K in 0% APR, business limits to grow and scale your company. But if not, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and let me know what you guys think in the comments or what you guys want to see next. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Peace.